to the Australian Championship.
Shot up the post and in. Continue to make history.
This rivalry burns as bright as ever.
That is just spectacular. It's incredible fairy tale.
Well, as the curtain falls on the first weekend of Australian football's new era, how fitting that round one of the Australian Championship ends at one of the game's most historic homes. Sydney United Sports Centre, a Socceroos factory drenched in memories and culture, now ready to play its role in a fresh chapter as Sydney United and Bayswater City open their campaigns in Group D. For Sydney United today, a long-awaited return to national competition. A three-time NSL Premier, NSL Cup winner, two-time NPL National Champion, and a foundation club restored to Australia's spotlight. It's a moment long in the making for Sydney United fans and for these juniors, but for Bayswater City, it's a maiden voyage. They fly the flag for West Australian football in the championship with a rich 64-year history in the state and a remarkable league and top four cup winning campaign at their back. Sydney's West against Australia's West. A lot to like about the picture that greets us at Adenza Park today. Both teams out of the King Tom Tunnel and onto the field for a moment that many of a Sydney United persuasion in particular have waited a long time to see. Their first game in the national or in a national competition for 21 years. Of course, they've played National Cup football in the Australia Cup very regularly, but 21 years since they were in the NSL, ready to step into a new era alongside Bayswater City today. And this is the lineup they named for their first national competition match in 21 years. A few big changes too. Capturing Adrian Vlastelica, currently overseas on his honeymoon, so veteran keeper Vedran Janjetovic will wear the armband. Anthony Tomilic covers his role in defence alongside Japanese import Koya Nakano from the Northern Tigers. In midfield, reigning United Player of the Season, Carlos de Oliveira is the player for Bayswater to watch out for. And up front, Marko Arambasic follows in the footsteps of his Socceroo father Zlatko and leads the line for United in a national competition, just as his dad did in the NSL. Special moment for him, a special moment for Bayswater City. WA's first entrant in the Australian Championship make one change from their top four cup final victory over Olympic Kingsway a month ago. Club top goal scorer Chris Jackson has missed the trip to Sydney. He and his wife are expecting a child this weekend. So Ollie Lagalia, who scored the goal that won Bayswater their fifth league title, gets the nod up front. Down back, experienced A-League stopper Luis Italiano and captain Luke Palmatier lead a back four that has shipped just 16 goals this NPL season. There's today's referee, Jake Rose, a referee of sizable pedigree in New South Wales. It's the match official for the 2025 NPL New South Wales Grand Final between West Apia and Rockdale Illendon. Sydney United will be more than familiar with him and his assistants Cameron Wright and Alessandro Lana. Matt Staples is the fourth official. Plenty expectant at King Tom of a Sydney United result today, but who do you think will win? That's the question. You can scan the QR code on screen now or head to australianchampionship.com.au to cast your vote. And I can imagine that there are few at Frank Drago Reserve, the home of this side, Bayswater City, scanning that QR code to vote for Bayswater in what is a massive, massive match for this swashbuckling side in state football, and a massive day for this man, Ante Juric, who used to drive 250 kilometres from the capital to Adenza Park to watch this team as a child. And now he gets to lead them on their return to national competition in his first season as Sydney United boss. Marko Arambasic, as mentioned, another who gets to be part of some special history today, following in the footsteps of his father. And just to the left of your picture, he's just fallen off screen, is head coach of Bayswater City, Matt Sparrow. He's no stranger to the big stage. He's a 300-game veteran of Scunthorpe United. He's shuffling in his chair there and actually scored at Wembley to seal promotion to the championship for Scunthorpe in 2009. 16 years on, he turns his attention to a different championship. And Sydney United return to national competition for the first time in 2 decades. And what a way to start things off, kicking it straight out into touch for an early throw-in. Well, it's an innovative new competition, the Australian Championship, and we've seen the rise of these innovative new kickoff tactics, trying to concede play instantly and lock the ball in at that end, and invariably Sydney FC or Sydney United have ended up with possession regardless. And to both see and hear a solid crowd in at King Tom today. Such a momentous occasion for this side, who have banged the drum as much as any for an opportunity like today to play their role in a new chapter of national competition football for these NPL clubs. It's going to be an interesting test that awaits them today, though. Bayswater City winning their first league title and the Top 4 Cup in 7 years. And what a swashbuckling title-winning campaign it was as well. More goals than any other side in the competition. Less goals conceded than any other side in the competition. 16 shipped in 2025. The best of any team in the Australian Championship. And here come Basie through the Scotsman Sean McManus. And he's just marshalled out of play that time around by one of the new men for Sydney United today in Dylan Rose. And it's the kind of physical contact and commitment to the cause that Sydney United fans will not be complaining about at all. From their new man from Sydney FC's Youth Academy. It's one of 8 signings that Ante Juric has made for this Australian Championship campaign. I described him, Ante Juric, as an exceptional young talent. And that was really the focus of the new players. Ante Juric has brought in plenty of young guns. It's one of the more experienced heads for Bayswater. South Gates with a no-look flick that's worked out for Pat Lowry, who was being harassed and harangued by Carlos de Oliveira. And eventually, Jake Rose decides in favour of the visiting side, who, as mentioned, are making their first bow in a national competition in their 64-year history, but not their first time on the national stage. You can't really start a new competition in the modern era without Bayswater City. They were WA's first entrant in the then FFA Cup, their first NPL national finalist. Actually made the final in 2015 when they went undefeated in the league under Chris Coyne. Lowry has managed to work her way through and pick out Legalia. The return ball not quite as good though for the Irishman. There's Bailey Rule. Up and under from Carlos de Oliveira. Just missing it in motion was Marko Arambasic initially. Couldn't make much of the loose ball that fell to him. Booming switch of play is going to be well judged by veteran Jan Jedovic. He's a veteran, Jan Jedovic, with a T these days, 38 years of age. Back in goal for Sydney United in the second half of this season. A club where he was a former junior. Made his senior debut back in 2009. Brought out of retirement for a second time by Ante Juric to fill that gap in goals. Dylan Rose. Chabot isn't quite on the same wavelength as his teammates. And forwards the throw to Sam Mitchinson, a real legend of Bayswater City. 7 seasons in total across 2 stints with Basie. And the former Rocco D'Orazio medalist as well. To Urich deep in thought on the sidelines. Launched in by Bayswater. Davies unable to come away with it. Southgate couldn't either. His touch was a little laboured. Perhaps this affords Sydney United a chance at a break, but the pass back from Aaron Basic, not his best. McManus, he's a danger player, and wise to that danger was young Gabriel Tillo that time. 6 goals and 6 assists for the Flying Scotsman. Sean McManus this season in NPLWA. Back at Bayswater this year after stints at Florida Athena and Sterling Macedonia. Has to be said, Bayswater taking a reasonable account of themselves inside the opening 10 minutes. Sydney United happy to let them have a large chunk of the possession as McManus lifts it in. Legalia's there. And they've had the bulk of the possession, and now they've had the best chance of the opening 10 minutes. Ollie Legalia heading wide. A delightful cross. That one from Sean McManus, and given the season he has had, the contributions he's made, Ollie Legalia almost expected the back of the net to bulge there. And just a fraction wide, but a wake-up call perhaps for Sydney United. It's coming off a solid season in NPL New South Wales. Well, it's our cup winners, but a little bit on the inconsistent side at points this year. It really was at the end of the season where they started to find their best football. So it's going to be a pressure-relieving free kick for Luke Palmatier. Sydney United coming into this one, having not played since the 3rd of September, but having lost just 2 games in their last 11 before that. So after a slow start, they did pull things together in the league. On a record 8th Waratah Cup. Round of 16 in the Australia Cup. They bowed out to Sydney FC at this venue. Lovely work from Carlos de Oliveira. Milicevic tries to turn on the style as well, and he is closed in on by a cavalcade of neon yellow shirts. Anthony Tomlich brings us back into play. And those of a Sydney United persuasion will be all too familiar with him. Those who are seeing him for the first time are looking at a Sydney United legend. Over 350 appearances, and still inside his first handful of appearances is that man, Gabriel Tillo. 16 years of age, the 3rd youngest player in the Australian Championship. Scored on debut earlier this year against St George FC and gets the nod on the national stage today. Nakano. Richard Darko. Is this Sydney United's chance to have a bit of a spell of possession? Was that header on the 7-minute mark from Ollie Legalia an eye-opener? Well, not on the basis of that evidence, because it is Legalia who has won a free kick in Bayswater's favour. A clumsy moment from the Sydney United veteran Anthony Tomlich. Just caught unawares by the closing pace. Bayswater's number 14. It's going to require a bit of treatment as a result. Physio Caitlin Tipping just wanted to make sure all is okay with their line leader today. Big shoes to fill today in the absence of Chris Jackson, 12 goals this season. And there's a lot of new signings on that bench today for Bayswater if Matt Sparrow does have to call on them. In fact, all of their signings for the Australian Championship on the bench today. Mason Tutafu, Takayuki Son, Aidan Edwards, Deegan Brook. Players who could make their Baysy debut today as Declan Hughes bends the ball in. It's allowed to nearly bounce. It's an awkward clearance in the end from Carlos de Oliveira, and so Bayswater City will sustain their pressure to the United net with a corner. These lovely flat deliveries, Declan Hughes, and made it really awkward for de Oliveira to deal with. So Declan Hughes to deliver the corner in. It bounces across the face of goal. Chabot has his pass cut out, that time by Pat Lowry. Perth Glory were WA's only previous national competition entrant back in the NSL and of course now in the A-League. On the national stage since, it hasn't always been the happiest time for WA teams. This is the 5th time in the NPL era that a Western Australian side have faced the team from New South Wales. And yet to taste a first victory in those 5 meetings across the Australia Cup and NPL National Finals. Positive signs so far though. Giles Davies that time, one who hits the deck. It's a tough deck to be hitting. Of course, a lot of AstroTurf pitches here in New South Wales, not nearly as common in Western Australia and other NPLs. So all those slides across the turf and bumps on the ground, they hurt just that little bit more in this state. And King Tom's AstroTurf no exception. Set piece responsibility on the shoulders of Pat Lowry. He bends in a right-footed ball and it's confidently claimed by veteran Janjetovic. Great take from the veteran keeper. And they're an expectant fan base. The Sydney United supporters at King Tom. Never afraid to let this team know when they're falling short of the mark. They're expecting a big performance today on their national competition return. Gabriel Tillo. It's picked off that time by Jonathan Corness. Such a great story. And Gabriel Tillo. Today just his 5th appearance in the senior Sydney United setup. 3rd year at the club, coming through the youth ranks. Aaron Basic picks that one off. Chabot lets fly from range, and it's a sighter without a touch from a Bayswater defender. So out of play for a Luis Italiano goal kick. And if you're an A-League fan of yesteryear, Luis Italiano is a name that you'll recognise. Fell just short of the half-century in the A-League, 49 games. The Glory, Phoenix, and most prominently the Newcastle Jets. Southgate with a big up and under. All the way out of play. It'll be really fascinating today to see how this virtually impenetrable Bayswater defence will go against the challenge of Sydney United. They've responded pretty well to the task inside the first 15 minutes of this one. I mentioned that 16 goals conceded figure being the best of any side in the Australian Championship this year. It's the best defensive record of a league champion in WA since 1990, would you believe? And Florida Athena conceded just 16 to win the league title that year. That was in an 18-game season. And it's all thanks to this man, Matt Sparrow. First year at the club and has taken them to a League and Cup double. Formerly of Fremantle City, where he led them to promotion to the top flight of NPLWA and finals football in his second season. Looks a very promising manager in just his third year as a head coach. Sydney United searching for a second gear. Tomilic. And not finding it. Tomilic with a couple of askew moments here and there. What Ante Juric will want to see from his experienced heads, given this is a side that is lacking a bit of experience. I think their captain, Adrian Vlastelica, star striker of 18 years, Patrick Antelmi, has departed the club. I don't know if it was an intentional or accidental backheel from Legalia, but it looks clever, even if it came to nothing for Pat Lowry. It's more comfortable for Tomilic. De Oliveira stabs it. Tillo forced to clear. Bassett trying to make himself a nuisance. Jackson Stevens favoured. We'll judge that by Milicevic. Lovely turn from Shabao. Good space opens up for him to feed Richard Darko. The overlapping run is there, but just at 6s and 7s, the two Sydney United teammates, Richard Darko and Bailey Rule. And now it is Darko who is doubling back as Pat Lowry gets on the charge in the open space. Meccano coming across the cover. And Lowry sort of running out of ideas in the end. Bailey Rule. Long launch in the Aaron Bassett direction. Good hold-up play by the gargantuan striker. And twisting and turning. Good feet for a big man as well. De Oliveira lifts the ball into the box, but no one home to make anything of it. Italiano able to gather. Coast to coast there, one keeper to another. The two most experienced players at either end of the park, and Jedivic has played that one straight into touch, so an injury stoppage is going to be brought about here by the referee, Jake Rose. Shabao is the man on the deck at the moment. Not a player, Shabao, that Sydney United would want to part ways with. A veteran of NPL New South Wales competition with Blacktown, and you can see the signal from the physio. It looks like Mario Shabao's day is going to come to an end here, and that is a real shame. This second half of the season resurgence that Sydney United have been on has really been underpinned by the midfield pairing of Carlos de Oliveira and Mario Shabao. And all the signs are that pairing is going to be destabilised here. But will at least afford an opportunity, it looks like, for a return of a Sydney United junior to King Tom.
Early replacement for Sydney United. Coming off is number 8, Mario Chabot, and coming on is number 11, Richard Darko.
Happy return to the national stage for Mario Chabot, but it's a great moment for Ayok Mo. Chabot heads down the touchline. Ayok Mo, the Sydney United junior who made his debut for the club as a teen back in March 2022. He's back for his first Sydney United appearance in 3 years. So as one door closes for Mario Chabot, and Ante Juric will be hoping it's nothing serious. And the door opens for Ayuk Mo, a 20-year-old who's spent his NPL season at the Central Coast Mariners Youth Academy. And I fancied that it'll prompt a bit of a positional reshuffle. Mo traditionally a wide player in a front three, so we may well see. You might already be able to see the number 19 of Aiden Milicevic in the centre of midfield now. Not a half-bad replacement for Ante Juric. A tightly fought contest as we tick past the opening 20 minutes. Oli Lagalia's header. One significant chance falling the way of Bayswater City. McManus. Back to Declan Hughes. McManus not catching that cross, and Fedor Njenjevic happy to watch it all the way out of play. Fedor Njenjevic, his arrival at the club necessitated by something that has been a repeat problem. It's reared its ugly head again today for Sydney United. This continued trouble with injury this year. It was only at the end of the year, speaking to Ante Juric in midweek, that it became apparent just how many they racked up over the year. Of course, missing a few walk-up starters for that very reason. Luke Jovila out with a hamstring. Michael Blassic popped his shoulder in the final game of the season. And Ian McGing also unavailable at the moment. So they are a little undermanned in those defensive stocks. That explains the cavalcade of signings, many of whom are on the bench today. It's Oliveira, the one constant for Sydney United this season. Milicevic twisting and turning. Just a bit too much meat on that one in the direction of Bailey Rule. So a bit of a tricky comparison to make, but Bayswater do arrive to Odense Park after a 4-hour and 15-minute flight yesterday from WA, with a very good record away from their home, Frank Drago Reserve, where there is a watch party for this game today. They've not lost a game on the road in 414 days in league play. Of course, you don't need me to mention that this is a slightly different away trip to the kind of home away from home that they are used to. It'll be one of the longest trips, or if not the longest trip to make in the Australian Championship this year. Tillo. Expectant home crowd still waiting for Sydney United to hit their straps. It's cleared into touch. It's Ante Juric on ball boy duties this time around. Ante Juric will be... Oh, lovely stuff from Gabriel Tillo. And that's the exuberance of youth. Just getting the better of him that time around. And picked off by Bailey Rule. Milicevic on the move. Lovely stab to Aaron Basic, who was just a bit too far forward of the last line of Bayswater defence. First time since the 29th of April 2001. We've seen the Aaron Basic name in the Sydney United lineup in national competition. And of course, playing and scoring for this club in the 2000-2001 NSL season. Darko sets a task for Aaron Basic. Italiano off his line. The booming ball into the afternoon air that's just about dealt with by Palmateer. NPLWA's top defenders, Luke Palmateer. Second season at Bayswater. Great stint at Sterling Macedonia. Leads this team in clearances and in minutes played. Hasn't missed a second of the league campaign as far as I know. Looks like it came off the hand of Koi Nakano. No whistle arriving from Jake Rose. And Mo is lucky to keep that one in his spell. And pops it over the top to the onrushing Bailey rule. And you can see the poll is skewing heavily in favour of Sydney United at the present moment, but if you don't agree, or if you do, you can go and vote yourself. Scan the QR code on screen or head to AustralianChampionship.com.au to cast your vote for who you think will win this one. And over 70% of the voting public believe Sydney United will get the job done, but on the evidence of the opening 27 minutes, that is by no means a sure thing. McManus on the left-hand side, another teasing right-footed delivery. This one lacking a willing recipient. Davies gets up. Lowry with a half-hearted effort and out of play. No real danger to the Sydney United defence, who have really solidified at the back end of the season. Conceding just 2 goals in their last 6 games. Ollie Lagalia, if you want the shirts of Dylan Rose that badly, you might have to wait until after the game. An easy one for Jake Rose to spot in midfield. It is, of course, a special occasion for both sides. We may see some shirt swaps, but got another 60 minutes to go until we can get to that sort of territory. Bayswater, WA's sole Australian Championship entrant, giving themselves a great showing so far. Tillo rides the challenge of McManus. De Oliveira has been a busy bee across the midfield 3. And upended by Patrick Lowry, who was very quick to depart the scene of the crime. And Dante Juric and his coaching staff making that point that maybe there should have been a card to go with this foul that you'll be able to see picture in picture. And Ante Juric's reaction as well, not best pleased. And the stop-start nature of this matchup continues as Sydney United pick up a free kick in a relatively promising position. It's a decent distance from goal. A lot of angle to work with, so you're going to have to get it bang on to test Luis Italiano, but if there's a player out there who can do that, Carlos De Oliveira is one such player. Is there a test on the way for Luis Italiano here? It's De Oliveira and Darko over the dead ball. This would be a great way to announce their return to national competition. And it's going to be Richard Darko straight into the wall. Sydney United retained possession through Rose. Mo with the dancing feet, able to work his way around one marker. Now Milicevic, was there a handball there? A few Sydney United fans asked the question, but play continues. That is more like it, though, for the home side. To Oliveira. Rule has had room to roam on this left flank so far, and Mo provides the overlap. He's ignored. To Oliveira, a searching ball. Aaron Basic rises. Mitchinson is the player to whom the loose opportunity falls. It's a loose pass. It lacks a fortune for Bailey Rule. Deflection broke perfectly into his lap. Mo. Twisting and turning, feeding De Oliveira. He thought about returning the favour and then decided to go himself from a speculative position, but he's capable of hitting them, Carlos De Oliveira. Only 3 this campaign, but when he does score them, they are usually pretty easy on the eye. Here's one of Sydney United's new signings, Farakoko. Snared from Manly United. This is a great run from Jonathan Corness. The cross not quite matching the forward gallop. Easily dealt with by Messrs De Oliveira and Tillo. Just back on Farakoko. Signed very late in the Australian Championship window after an injury to another player I forgot to mention in that injury list for Sydney United. And perhaps the most important, Mason Wells, their top scorer this season. 10 goals. I hope I can watch the footage from their league campaign. So much came through him. So they try to create something through Bailey Rule, but they'll have to content themselves with a corner. So a set-piece situation for Sydney United to deal with. Mason Wells was the attacking fulcrum for them this season. He would have loved to latch onto balls like this, but the touch from Pat Lowry, who tracked back very deep, a telling one. He's got stoic expressions, but I fancy Matt Sparrow will be fairly pleased with what he's seen from his side so far. Bent in by De Oliveira, tipped away by Italiano. Aaron Basic was lurking with intent at the back post. And Lagalia just can't keep that one in play. It's been an interesting battle so far. Oli Lagalia and Anthony Tomilic. Oliveira back to Tillo. A clever touch from the teenager. Annis is marshalling him well, but he's clever enough to win a corner, and there's a bit of an exchange between the youngster and the Scotsman. Just to have a little friendly rivalry bubbling away, of course. The beauty of this Australian Championship group stage means that every team will play the 3 other teams in their group home and away. So any hatchets can be buried in the away leg at Frank Drago. As Darko delivers, headed away by the Bayswater defence, and Southgate will get a more emphatic clearance through this one. Giving chase was McManus. Koya Nakano coming away with the football. Oh, what a turn from the Japanese defender, and again. You wouldn't know he's a centre-back with turns like that. De Oliveira. Does that lift the mood? De Oliveira! Well, if nothing else, it's a sequence that has the Sydney United fans in voice. And when United are playing at their best, the crowd is usually at their back. How about this from Koya Nakano? There's one, Oppa. And there's another. And the shot from De Oliveira, wayward. Well, it was fairly well struck, but a little on the inaccurate side. But there's a taste of what your new signing is capable of, Sydney United fans. Koya Nakano, a very versatile defender, as evidenced by that run. 36 games in all competitions for the Northern Tigers in League One. It's the second tier of New South Wales state football, for those not familiar. The Northern Tigers actually played Sydney United earlier this year in the Australia Cup. Tempestuous jostling continues at the top of the penalty area as we await the delivery from deep of Declan Hughes. He has to spray these ones. It was another one that was at an awkward height for the Sydney United defence, but nicely judged by Fedran Jetovic. Using all 163 games of his experience in the A-League to gather that one. Milicevic. Darko clears the space. Bayswater making their defensive lines really compact. It's hard for the home side to break through as yet. Rose, De Oliveira, the shooting angle opens up and the little touch just takes all the sting out of the ball. He is looking the man for Sydney United this far. Not that that is any surprise for those that have watched him in the local competition this season. We are blessed with some quality Australian Championship midfielders out there today. Declan Hughes, Bayswater, one of the foremost technicians in that competition. You've already seen that in abundance today with his set-piece deliveries. Jonathan Corness, the Gary Morocci medalist in the Top 4 Cup final as well. As Tillo touches and turns, it's a chaotic sequence at the top of the Bayswater penalty area. Mitchinson. It's a no-looker, and it's picked off by Tillo. And comes the aforementioned Declan Hughes to try and intercept. Showed all the energy you'd expect of a 16-year-old today, Gabriel Tillo. Heading towards the end of the first half. Sydney United have taken a grip of the possession. They're starting to knock at the Bayswater door as Mo is upended and Rose responds. Jake Rose, that is, with a whistle in favour of Sydney United. Jake Rose, I am going to presume, no relation to the United midfielder Dylan. As Mo was just scythed down that time by Giles Davies. It's a bit of a family affair for Dylan Rose, the former Sydney United junior. Brother, of course, plays in the A-League. Liam Rose for Macarthur Bulls. Sister Alyssa in the NPLW competition here in New South Wales with Apia Leichhardt, or Wests Apia as they're known in the Australian Championship. Here's De Oliveira's delivery. It's a decent one. Aaron Basic couldn't get the proper contact, and it's another scare survive for the Bayswater backline. should just be able to see at the top of Sean McManus's shirt a special inscription at the top of these Bayswater jerseys that we'll make mention of in a moment. Bayswater today carrying the name of club legend Sergio Lenyi, who recently passed away earlier this year. An absolute legend of Bayswater City, over 50 years of service to the club, mostly behind the bar, which is currently named in his honour and has been for some time at Frank Drago Reserve. The club tattoo on his body, and sure, somewhere in what Johnny Warren used to refer to as the great football field in the sky, he is looking down with pride on seeing Bayswater in the national competition today. Thoughts with the Bayswater City community for the passing of a club legend. Many of them will be at Frank Drago Reserve watching this game and sharing a beer over the Sergio Lenyi bar. Bayswater are giving a great account of themselves so far on the national stage. Richard Darko. Mo just turned his way into trouble. It's Jonathan Corness who picks up the pieces and releases Pat Lowry with a clever little pass. The numbers start to filter through. Can Lowry find one of them? Decent delivery just past the reach of Giles Davies. Midfielder. He's getting just a 10th start of the season this year. Not a regular scorer of goals or scorer of goals at all this season. It's not about to change that tally that time around, but positive flashes remain for Baysy as the first half approaches closure. It's a Rule on the run. Mo providing support to the byline. Ayok Mo flicked nearly by Aaron Basic, but again the cross just overcooked. But Sydney United fans have been enjoying the link up between Rule and Ayok Mo. And just too hot for Aaron Basic to latch onto. So we've got two coaches now today who have been on ball kid duties. Ante Urich picked it up earlier. Matt Sparrow returning it to Sam Mitchinson this time around. Glance forward by Legalia. Is there a pull on the shirt of Aaron Basic? Well, Jake Rose says yes. So plenty of physical grunt work to do so far. 22-year-old Marco Aaron Basic. Actually, won't be 22 much longer. He celebrates his birthday tomorrow. This will be an early present following in the footsteps of his father's lap coat. De Oliveira. Not too clever by half that time. Sydney United might get another crack to fashion an opening as we approach first half stoppage. Deep ball not going to be reached by Richard Darko. Veteran of the national stage, Richard Darko, as is Sam Mitchinson. Long tenure at Bayswater. He actually started the last time Bayswater played a New South Wales team on the national stage. 2015 NPL National Final.
The fourth official has put out 1 minute of additional time for this first half.
Town City emerged victorious as fourth official adds on just the solitary minutes. Matt Staples to this game. Time enough for one last Sydney United chance. Legalia's in the opening 10 remains the best. Up but not away by Southgate. Lowry gets his boot through it. Legalia and Nakano in a tangle, and it's Legalia who comes away with the football. He's proving a real handful, is Legalia, and the cross into the middle. Couldn't pick up McManus, well judged by Vedran Janjetovic. Milicevic. It's going to be in the generosity of Jake Rose as to whether Sydney United get one more chance here. Richard Darko breaks onto the left. And switches the field for Ayuk Mo. Into generosity time from the referee. Mo picks a corner pass. Aaron Basic, it opens up for Ayuk Mo. Crucial block from Luke Palmatier. Lovely link up from two Sydney United youngsters. And they won't get the corner at the end of it. Jake Rose blows half-time on Sydney United and Bayswater City's opening game of the Australian Championship. A tempestuous affair. Yeah, there will be plenty of work to do in the second 45. The halftime score, Sydney United 0, Bayswater City 0.
Who's the next star in the Socceroo incubator at Adenza Park? There's no honour roll quite like the one at Sydney United. Bosnich, Trelina, Jedinak, Kalatz, Slater, Strilic, Popovic, among so many more.
And 1-0 to Sydney United. The goal scorer, the captain, Tony Popovic.
But as proud as the past is at Sydney United, don't overlook a modern power. Twice they won the NPL National Finals, and they were the first NPL team to make an Australia Cup final.
Roberts, again, it's clever play. Shafiro! Oh, what a goal! Sydney United are into the final.
No club might be better informed of what it will take to win the Australian Championship.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to commemorate an absolute legend of the Sydney United 58 Football Club. None other than our number 9, Mr. Patrick Anselmi. Please give a big round of applause, the legend of Sydney United. And coming out to present to Patrick a very special commemorative picture, that is Christian Gonzalez, teammate here at Sydney United, and as well as legend Ray Geary. Sydney United 58 would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Patrick Anselmi for 8 years of service to the club.
Football's back home. It'd be great to be on SBS again.
It's going to definitely give the Australian Championship a massive, massive platform.
You're not just showcasing yourself on YouTube or anything anymore. It's SBS, it's massive.
It's great that it's going to be live free there. It's great exposure.
Every player want to be in TV, and I think that's really good for the people in Australia.
Now I can tell all my siblings I just tell them to turn on SBS and watch me there.
It's the best thing to happen to football in Australia in a very long time.
It's integral to all these
clubs and fans and players to have the games broadcasted live.
That's where you want to be on free to air. It's SBS. Everyone watches it.
To have football back on, I guess, the main stage of where it all started, it's exciting. It's a great opportunity for the whole of Australia to watch.
You never know what's going to happen.
We just hope that we can do this code proud.
For every football lover in Australia, you know, when you hear the SBS, you think about football.
I grew up with watching the World Game on SBS.
On Sunday from first thing in the morning, all day football.
I was an avid follower of the Captain Socceroos, Johnny Warren.
Craig Foster, you know, Les Murray days, you can't forget it.
All the iconic moments in football have been on SBS.
SBS was the home of football, so it's great that we're back there.
Half time at the Sydney United Sports Centre. Sydney United's return to the national competition for the first time in 21 years, still yet to really kick into gear. They are being tested by the WA entrant to the Australian Championship, Bayswater City. It was a incident-filled first half in which the first chance, and the best one, fell to the visitors. This header from Ollie Lagalia, fired wide for what would have been his 10th goal of the season in all competitions. A delightful cross from Sean McManus, and that was an opportunity to put a scare through the hearts of the Sydney United faithful. And they could only muster half chances from that point onwards. This one into the wall from Richard Darko. Sydney United had a lot of possession in these sorts of areas. Couldn't always make too much of it at the other end. Ayuk Mo came on. Ed Milicevic had a block shot, and it was a bit of a repeat theme. Bayswater making life very difficult so far for Sydney United to find openings in their defence. But when they did, Carlos de Oliveira was often the architect. He was shooting with serious licence in this first half. That one, the first of a number of wayward long shots from him. This was probably the pick of the bunch from Sydney United. Koya Nakano, their new signing, turning on the style and managing to pick out Carlos de Oliveira in the end, who once again just couldn't get the radar in on the eventual shot from distance. It is sighters to which Sydney United have mostly been limited to do, and then right before the break, Ollie Lagalia was in the thick of the action again, but couldn't square things up for Sean McManus that time around. It means there is lots of work for both sides to do. You can see it's Sydney United edging the shot count, but yet to actually muster a shot that has tested the goalkeeper, Luis Italiano. Bayswater have made life very difficult for the former NSL giant in the Group D of the Australian Championship so far. Healthy foul count, as you can see. Bayswater made the 4-hour journey east, and they're throwing their bodies about. United will have no shortage of fans. They're currently queued, as you can see, for Chavapi rolls at halftime. As an act of solidarity, actually, Sydney United today offering free Chavapi rolls to anyone with a Western Australian driver's licence. If you've made the journey, you've earned it, is the message. So hopefully in that crowd amongst the Sydney United fans, there's someone with a WA driver's licence, and what a treat we have been afforded so far in the opening weekend of the Australian Championship. Goals galore on Friday night as South Melbourne and Sydney Olympic opened this new competition in front of 6,000 fans, and that was the match winner from Jordan Lampard. A goal worthy of winning any game. Top bins from the fullback. Less said about the celebration, the better. The football continued in a Super Saturday where Jordan Segredo marked his injury return for Apia with a winning goal on the road to Metro Stars. West Apia getting it done at TK Shutter Reserve before another New South Wales v Victoria encounter ultimately sprung a bit of a surprise. Jason Romero put Preston Lions ahead in the first half, and they thought they were destined for 3 points on their championship debut. But Spirit's new signing in Spirit stoppage time had other ideas. Caleb Jackson-Brown coming from Mount Druitt Town and snatching an equaliser late on for the New South Wales Premiers, who are so good at scoring late. It was An entertaining Saturday, and there's been no shortage of goals on the Sunday either. Broadmeadow Magic and Moreton City Excelsior playing out a 5-goal thriller, which Moreton City won in stoppage time. Wollongong getting the win at Darcy Street in South Hobart. 3-1 victors there, where the headline goal was a halfway strike from Kazuya Yamamura, the Japanese import, while Heidelberg United, the Australia Cup finalists, got the job done against Marconi Stallions at Olympic Village. Still goalless in both of the final games of the opening weekend, but you can bet your bottom dollar that that is bound to change either at King Tom or at Avenger Park in Victoria. And at halftime, Sydney United got the chance to farewell a legend. Patrick Antelmi saying goodbye with a special halftime presentation after 228 appearances and 8 years for Sydney United. Of course, you can vote who you think will win this one. Most people are saying Patrick Antelmi's former side, but if you think otherwise, or if you think the same, scan the QR code on the screen right now. But still plenty to be decided in this final game of Group D in the Australian Championship. A big second 45 to come at the Sydney United Sports Centre, where the halftime score is Sydney United 0, Bayswater City 0.
You can't start a new competition without Bayswater City. Who was the first premier and champion of the NPL era in WA? Bayswater. First WA representative in the NPL National Finals? Bayswater. In the hat for the first ever FFA Cup National Round of 32?
Bayswater Inter.
So it should come as no surprise that the boys from Frank Drago Reserve are the West's sole representative for the next grand opening. Having toiled through a modest and merger-filled history, Bayswater City exploded into their golden era in the 2010s. A three-peat, the jewel in the crown.
A big-time goal! And Bayswater are going to win the league tonight!
And now Bayswater City has ended an 8-year wait to peak again and top the league in Western Australia to book their place in the Australian Championship.
45 minutes to play. Still all to play for in the opening game of Group D in the Australian Championship between New South Wales Foundation Club Sydney United and Western Australian premiers and champions Bayswater City. Not much to split the sides in an opening 45 in which Sydney United failed to fire in large portions on their return to the national competition. A big half coming their way, you would imagine, at the Sydney United Sports Centre. While for Bayswater City, well, their head coach Matt Sparrow acknowledged they were the underdogs in this game. They have been doing a good job to shake that tag so far in this game, and it is the visitors who get us underway and try to get things going early. That one cross onto the roof of the net from Ollie Lagalia, whose first half chance was the closest that either side came to an opener inside the opening 10. Chances of significant note, few and far between beyond that. Sydney United still waiting for their first shot on target of this game. If they are to mix it at the pointy end of this competition, which is what the fans here in Adenza Park will expect, that will have to change. First time, of course, Sydney United have played West Australian opposition since the NSL days. 21 years and 233 days since they faced the Perth Glory in a 4-2 defeat. Nick Merger scoring a hat-trick on the road to winning the last NSL Grand Final. Matt Sparrow, a happy man so far for Baysy. Didn't have the best record towards the end of the NSL against Perth Glory. Did Sydney United as it's launched in by Stevens, flicked across the box. McManus couldn't find the opening for a first-time shot. Can find a cross, though, and the flick on attempted from Giles Davies. Comfortably claimed. By veteran Janjetovic. Winless in 7 against Perth Glory, Sydney United, towards the end of the NSL. You can't help but wonder whether or not we will see some of those new faces on the Sydney United bench make their mark on this game sooner rather than later. Ante Juric, of course, forced into one first half change. Mario Chabot succumbing to injury and replaced by Ayuk Mo. Adam Basic fighting 3 Bayswater defenders and eventually losing out to the weight of numbers. Much to the chagrin of some of those of a Sydney United persuasion here. That one eventually ends in a free kick in Bayswater's favour. I spoke to Matt Sparrow in midweek and about how they planned to take on the challenge of Sydney United, Bayswater City, and he acknowledged that they are playing a side who are coming from one of the top NPLs in the country, but they would still plan to play their way and be brave, take risks. And well, there's still plenty of football to be played, and they're not playing to take a point. Even a point taken today would be a big result for the side from WA. The first time in the NPL era in Australia Cup and NPL National Finals meetings that a side from WA has taken anything other than defeat from a team from New South Wales. Oliveira and Corness in a tangle. Sydney United come up with the ball. Fast feet from Gabriel Tillo. And now Richard Darko turns on the afterburners. Puts the ball into the box and cleared at full stretch by Thomas Southgate. part of the Perth Soccer Club that were in the last year of the NPL National Finals. Defending to do for him though, Ayuk Mo, thwarted nicely by Patrick Lowry. And Ayuk Mo quick to return the favour. And I mentioned how much more uncomfortable it can be to land on the artificial turf. Patrick Lowry maybe just finding that today. You can actually see it, the black bits of plastic that line these artificial turfs on top of his head at the moment. And if you land on the AstroTurf as opposed to the grass they play on in Australia's West, it doesn't tickle. Declan Hughes. Sam Mitchinson on the left and up the line to McManus. Haven't seen, it's been a real contrast of styles from both teams' fullbacks today. Bailey Rule and Gabriel Tillo happy to march up the flanks. There's Thomas Southgate, Sam Mitchinson at 31 and 33 years old respectively. Did tend to have a slightly more conservative approach to their gallivanting. Not that it's bothered them this season, of course. 16 goals conceded in NPLWA this season. That was a good switch for Sean McManus. A swing and a miss from Gabriel Tillo to afford the Baysy wing of the football. It's been quite the handful, McManus. That time Tillo gets the job done. And what is even crazier about this much vaunted defensive record of Bayswater, at 16 goals conceded figure, 6 of those goals came in just 2 regular season games. The final day against Perth Soccer Club, where they already had the league championship wrapped up, and the top of the table clash in July against Olympic Kingsway. So in the 20 other league games, they conceded half a goal a game. Seriously impressive. Will this sit up for McManus? The answer is yes, but his cross can only find the body of a defender, Gabriel Tillo, and Darko trying to make things happen in the opposite direction. Just, that is one thing that Bayswater City have done really well today, is when the half openings have arrived for Sydney United, they get numbers to the football very quickly. They seriously work hard. Testament to the work of Thomas Southgate, their head coach Matt Sparrow. Bayswater in NPLWA, never been a side who have struggled to score. And it's always been keeping things tight at the other end that's been the challenge. And hasn't Matt Sparrow come in and fixed that? Pat Lowry, one of the players who joined Sparrow, moving from Fremantle City to Bayswater this year, and has reaped the rewards. Here's a rare foray forward for Mitchinson. The cross, not the best from the former Melbourne Heart and Perth Glory defender. Corness. Launch forward in the direction of Legalia. He's best placed for Tillo. Just pokes it into touch. And the second half has started in largely the same fashion of the first. Bayswater City taking the bulk of the possession. And Ollie Legalia, he is a fairly solid and stocky unit up top, and I mean that as a compliment. Very much the bigger dog in the fight against the 16-year-old Gabriel Tillo. As Declan Hughes tried to make magic happen, glanced forward by Lowry. The head tennis of Giles Davies, eventually thwarted by Anthony Tomalich. Got to be careful in those moments, though, Sydney United. Mo, not quite on the same wavelength as his new teammate Bailey Rule. Nakano stabs that one into a dangerous area. McManus wanted a free kick, and you know what? He is going to get it. High boot, the judgment of Jake Rose. And a free kick on the way for Bayswater City. feel for Tillo. Sold a little bit short by the pass of Koya Nakano. But in any case, it is Bayswater City free kick. And I would not be surprised if the number 6 of Declan Hughes is thinking about a shot from this sort of range, such as his set piece prowess. Such a great striker at the dead ball, whether it's as a corner taker, as a set-up man, or as someone who takes on the shot direct. I wonder if he might have just thought twice about doing exactly that. He's going to try and set it up for a teammate. It's McManus who stabs it in. Lagalia! Well, Vedran Janjetovic was in the right place at the right time to thwart the Bayswater City striker. And again, Declan Hughes' delivery causing a bit of chaos in the Sydney United penalty area. McManus's hopeful stab found Ollie Lagalia, and he couldn't add another important goal. Sam Mitchinson with a friendly conversation with some of the Sydney United fans congregated on the hill on the far side. It's always one of the joys of coming to King Tom as a visiting player. And a chance for Ollie Lagalia can now lay claim to the 2 best. We just saw it a second ago. It's their 8th shot of this game, Bayswater City. Lagalia able to win a corner. And how close he came to opening Bayswater's account on the national stage with this chance. Just put it in the one place it needed not to be. Vedran Janjetovic was coming back across the goal, and in either corner, should have been placed there, we could be talking about a different game as Hughes swings it in, and Janjetovic equal to the task once again. 38 years of age, and you wouldn't know it from how he has acquitted himself today. Such a wonderful reader of the play from those situations. And such a great story. He can come out of retirement twice now after the end of his A-League career, enforced by injury. He's basically out of the game for 4 years until David Carney asked him to come and train at the Wollongong Wolves. And he was asked to sign as a permanent member of the squad after one of their keepers left. And it was quite the conversation. He said to David Carney, I'm 99 kilos, do you think I can still play? Carney said yes. And Janjetovic did, went on to play the whole season for Wollongong. Retired again before the mid-season window brought him back to Sydney United. A great read on football360.com.au if you want to hear more about Vedran Janjetovic's comeback story. As he looks to judge this one well. And he's fallen victim to the commentator's curse that time around. That's more like it from Vedran Janjetovic. Gathers at the second time of asking, wearing the captain's armband in the absence of Adrian Vlastelica. Nakano. Sydney United searching for space that has been fleeting for them today. And they might find it here through Ayok Mo. He goes toe-to-toe with Southgate, goes to the turf, but I think that was just a loss of footing as opposed to any malicious intent from the Bayswater fullback. Not much in that one. Very solid tattoo game, Thomas Southgate. Veteran of the local competition. Mentioned his exploits with Perth Soccer Club. He's also played for the Western Knights and Guelph. 4 years at Bayswater City now. Giles Davies robbed of it by Milicevic. De Oliveira gets the eyes up. A little poking ball for Milicevic, but Italiano reads the play expertly, and the cut and thrust through the centre of defence that Sydney United searching for. Well, they got closer that time, but have escaped them this season. Only 41 goals in the league this year. And they are, of course, today missing 3 of their top 5 scorers from this season. Leroy Jennings out injured. Mason Wells as well. Departed Patrick Antelmi, and in the interest of freshening up that attack, Ante Juric has turned to his bench. It's going to be one club debut for Farakoko from Manly United and one return to Sydney United for the former Marconi man, Kyle Cementi.
Okay, a couple of changes.
Richard Darko making way for Kyle Cementi.
Kyle Cementi.
He returns to the club today for his 3rd stint at Sydney United. First game in their colours since October 2022. Farakoko is a player that Ante Juric is very excited about, of course. He's only signed at the last minute. Here's a chance to show what he can do on the ball, and already showing some quality. The pass, though, did it take a touch? Well, Farakoko was asking the question, but the assistant referee thought otherwise. New tricky players for Matt Sparrow to worry about, and for Luis Italiano too. But, only brought in late in the window, Farakoko, after that Mason Wells broke his foot last week in training. The good news was that Farakoko was available after a 10-goal season at Manly, and was a player that Ante Juric had already been targeting to join them in the NPL next season. Here is Farakoko cutting in onto the right and running out of real estate in the presence of Jackson Stevens. Mo covering back nicely there. The Sydney United fans applaud the endeavour. Milicevic in a little pocket, bends the ball across for De Oliveira. Mo on the run, but Jackson Stevens makes himself a nuisance again. Marko Arambasic, the other player to depart in the wake of that double substitution, isn't going to be able to, this time around at least, become the latest Arambasic to score on the national stage for Sydney United. And despite the way this second half has panned out so far, we're still goalless at King Tom. The court of public opinion yet to change. Sydney United still the 74% favourites, and if you want to cast your vote on who you think will win, you can scan the QR code on screen or head to australianchampionship.com.au. But 63 minutes of play. Those watching on still unchanged in their opinion that Sydney United are favoured. Perhaps they know how potent Sydney United can be late in games. Reputation for late drama. And some of these juniors have been celebrating late goals in the past. Southgate forward to Oli Legalia. Milan Milicevic conspire to win it back. Mo upended. Play continues. Farakoko on the run. This will be an interesting task for the Bayswater defence. Sydney United's new danger man wins a corner for his new side. 27 goals this year scored in the final half hour of games, Sydney United. So many of those late on. De Oliveira goes short, receives from Milicevic, and it's a bit betwixt and between, a shot and a cross that time. It's Italiano happy to watch it sail over the goal frame. He's looked most likely though, Carlos De Oliveira. Whether it was a miscue of the feet or a miscue of the mind, your guess as good as mine. 10 shots now for Sydney United, but Luis Italiano, crucially, yet to be called into action from a shot-stopping perspective. Lagalia, he's been a busy boy, tries to ask the question of Pat Lowry. And it's a half-hearted swing in. He collected some contact. And for the umpteenth time today in the arms of Vedran Janjetovic. As De Oliveira is collected from behind. You can see Jake Rose counting up the fouls, and Patrick Lowry is now going to head into the book. Here's the Irishman. And while that one was fairly minor in its severity, you could see Jake Rose was making the point. It's not your first, second, it's probably not even your third. And the accumulation of fouls has seen Declan, or rather Patrick Lowry, become the first player in the book. Farakoko. Interesting that McManus and Patrick Lowry have swapped flanks in the last little while. Kyle Cementi showed right ahead by Jackson Stevens. And so Juric has played a few of his cards off the bench, as we can actually see a bit of rain starting to drop down in Sydney's west. Been a strange old day of weather, top of 30 degrees, which cooled at the right time for this game as Milicevic can't find a man in the middle. A repeat theme for Sydney United this afternoon. As they will be wanting to start their Australian Championship campaign with a win, not least because of a blockbuster matchup for them next Friday, heading to Leichhardt Oval to face a familiar foe and a new frontier in West Zapia. Two foundation clubs, both former mainstays of the NSL. And we mentioned the raft of signings that Matt Sparrow made in the Australian Championship transfer window. And Baysy fans get to see the first of them today. Giles Davies departs for Aidan Edwards, who returns to WA after 2 seasons in Victoria with the Dandenong Thunder. Very successful campaign for them this year, finishing third, narrowly missing out on playing in the Australian Championship, in fact. Aidan Edwards, a WA local, formerly playing professionally a handful of games for Perth Glory. Back at a WA NPL club for the first time since 2022 when he was with Coburn City. Milicevic. Tillo wide, slipping it to Ayukmo, who can find an opening here. He tried to collect the contact of the defender, and Jake Rose has seen the contact and has pointed to the spot. Sydney United are going to get the chance to open their Australian Championship account from the spot. Ayukmo danced around Jonathan Corness, cut across the defender. He wasn't best pleased. And the contact that started outside the box in the view of Jake Rose continued into it. And now Sydney United will get a massive opportunity to get the breakthrough in this game. Let's have another look. Ayukmo had Jonathan Corness beaten at the first time of asking. while maybe some might say that the youngster of Sydney United went down fairly easily, the contact was there. And Oli Legalia's misses in the first and second half are standing out now because Carlos de Oliveira, Sydney United's player of the season, steps up with the responsibility of opening Sydney United's Australian Championship account against Luis Italiano. It's de Oliveira! It's Sydney United back on the board in national competition. And who else but Carlos de Oliveira, their player of the season this year. The man they have turned to time and again, who gets it done from the penalty spot. And at long last, the fans at Adenza Park have what they've been waiting for. And this is the reason why Ayuk Mo going to ground, cutting across him was Jonathan Corness. And then de Oliveira stepped up to score Sydney United's first goal in a national competition in 21 years. And it is a welcome tonic for the boys from Adenza Park, because chances for them so far in this game have been few and far between inside the box. Stroke of luck breaks the way of the former NSL mainstay. And while he has been mostly limited to sighters today from outside the box, Carlos de Oliveira, he has looked the most likely in this game, but we didn't necessarily know that he'd eventually make good on his threats to score. It'd be from the penalty spot. And so Bayswater City will perhaps feel hard done by to find themselves in the position that they do. Still plenty of time to work with in this game. And in local competition at least, a side who, as good as they are at defending, have shown no shortage of ability to score. More goals than any in the regular season in NPL WA. And they're going to need to open their account if they are to avoid adding to the list of WA sides to suffer defeat against New South Wales opposition in the NPL era. Farakoko. Yukmo robbed of it by Mitchinson. McManus back on the left. And battling hard to earn a free kick. Jake Rose not particularly interested in affording advantage. You can see the grabby hands of Ayuk Mo. The primary reason as to why this free kick has been afforded. Oh, Ante Juric, that's so cute. Just having a little chin wag with the Sydney United juniors, of course. A youth program renowned Australia-wide. Sydney United, they have produced Socceroo after Socceroo here at King Tom. And they're on course to produce a win in their opening Australian Championship game. The job not done yet. Declan Hughes sets himself to pull another set-piece delivery of quality from the top draw. And it comes from Hughes. Vedran Janjetovic up to the task once again. Does taking the opening goal in this game allow Sydney United to loosen up a little bit in attack? It is a front three entirely of players who did not play for them this season. And Kyle Sementi, Ayuk Mo and Farakoko. The latter of whom has come across to the right now. Swapping with Ayukmo. McManus. Toe-to-toe with Tillo. And the Scotsman emerges victorious. To the top of the box it goes. Edwards laying it down for Corness. And the shot from distance is catching practice. Just stinging the palms of Vedran Janjetovic.
Progress scores from other grounds. Avondale 2 lead Canberra, Croatia, who have just scored 1.
It is one of the most high-tech and loudest PA systems you'll ever encounter at Sydney United Sports Centre, and you may have just heard it in full force. Updates from around the ground on that game between Canberra, Croatia and Avondale. And this was that run from Sean McManus that ultimately led to Gabriel Tillo on the turf. It was a decent drive from Declan Hughes. The question remains as to whether or not Bayswater City can make good on their threats to score in this game. As they'll return home to Frank Drago Reserve next week to take on Northeast Metro Stars in Group D. The benefit of a bit of a run of home games. The next 3 will all be played on familiar territory. And if they could come back from behind to come away with a point here today, it would be a massive result in this group where the top 2 go through. Certainly shaping as one of the trickier groups to pick as quarter-finalists. Down goes De Oliveira, the goal scorer. Who you wouldn't have thought he could go any higher in the estimations of Sydney United fans, but if he ends as the match winner today, he probably will be. It's been a remarkable sophomore season for him at Sydney United. The Player of the Season award coming alongside his Man of the Match medal in the Waratah Cup final. Sydney United won for the 8th time. Bailey Rule. The fullback checking inside, rolling it across the box. It's not the best touch from Mo. The second opportunity might arrive. Up and under flick. Missed in the air by Mo, and Mitchinson happy to let Lewis Italiano watch that one out of play. Inside the final 15 minutes, Bayswater have been fairly potent this season, late on in games. 13 goals scored in the final 15 minutes, but they haven't been in this position very often this season, having to come back from behind. Only conceded the first goal of a game 6 times this year in the league. And that rain has continued to tumble down at the Sydney United Sports Centre. You can see, you would have just seen Sydney United fans, many of them huddled under the roof, umbrellas out, as Matt Sparrow gets to hand another debut to one of his new signings, Takayuki Son. The Japanese midfielder looks to be coming on shortly, on loan from Murdoch University Melville in the 2nd tier of WA. As it's bent into the box, it bounces in the middle, but plays drawn dead for a foul on Koya Nakano. And that stoppage will allow Matt Sparrow to make his desired substitution. Off comes Thomas Southgate, making his Basie debut, 29-year-old Takayuki Son. Impressive campaign in WA. Murdoch University Melville finishing 5th in the State League 1 this year. Actually played alongside a former Bayswater player this year. A great goal scorer in Gustavo Marulanda from back in the day. Played in and scored in the NPL National Finals for Bayswater Last time they played a side from Sydney. The onus, though, on the boys from Baysy to make sure their long flight back home isn't in vain. It was a late goal that sealed them the championship. Only Lagalia scoring in stoppage time. They may have to conjure something like that today, but Sydney United could potentially seal it here. Cementi twisting, turning, cutting it back, but Bayswater body's in the way. Rule. Tomilich, it's the kind of game where you get the sense that 2 goals, a margin that may be too great for either side to climb. Chances at a premium. Carlos de Oliveira, the man who's been able to make his count from the spot. Milicevic. Cementi, lovely turn. And a decent switch too. Farakoko. Still going is Farakoko, the shot block though. And Stevens deals with the danger. Son. Declan Hughes. Look at outside of the foot pass, which was a tricky one to deal with for Jonathan Corness. He's been energetic in midfield. Looks to have come into the fullback slot though after the departure of Thomas Southgate from the field. Hasn't been the most convincing performance, but the win, if they can get it, Sydney United will happily take. Lagalia, it was easy on the eye, and is there going to be a foul called here? There will be. And that is sweet relief for Sydney United because there's a bit of open pasture to work with. This was a great nutmeg back heel from Ollie Lagalia, just a fraction away from being a brilliant pass. But Pat Lowry in his attempts to win back the ball just gave away a free kick. 10 minutes remain at the Sydney United Sports Centre. As things stand, Sydney United set to join West Sarpia atop Group D after week 1 of the Australian Championship. And what a weekend it's been. Goals galore across the board. This one's been a slightly tighter affair, but still plenty of entertainment. And Sydney United's return to national competition. Bayswater's debut in the big time. Farakoko. Lovely pass through the lines. Milicevic in turn. Rule squares it up and saved by Italiano. Great outstretched leg stop from the experienced stopper because Kyle Cementi was ready and waiting to stroke that one home to score on his Sydney United return. The last Sydney United goal came in the national stage. Kyle Cementi scoring against the Monaro Panthers in that run to the Australia Cup final in 2022. But for that intervention from Luis Italiano, he could have been returning his name to the scorer's sheet. And Jackson Stevens, despite the fact it's Cementi on the deck, has won the free kick. Sure, there'll be many happy to have Kyle Cementi back at the Sydney United Sports Centre. 6 goals in his last stint, the former United junior. It's been a bit of a problem position this season. A number of strikers have led the line. Mixed fortunes. Oh, lovely stuff from Farakoko. And a bit of space for Sydney United to work with this time. It's Farakoko going it alone. And not able to divert it on target. There's a little glimpse of what Farakoko offers. Lovely dribble, a great pace. Can hit them from this sort of range, but didn't catch it that time around. 4 goals outside the box this year for Farakoko. Manly United trying to set something up here. Milicevic. The game just starting to stretch. Milicevic keeps it alive, but isn't able to get the beating of the Bayswater defence. Tillo sinks the slipper. Both of these sides have gone over a month since their last competitive fixture, and maybe we're starting to see those signs of labour now. Is it the calm before the storm of a grandstand finish at King Tom? Only the next 5 minutes and stoppage will tell. Nakano. They meet in the King Tom Club to discuss the fallout of this game. Sydney United supporters, I'm sure a lot of them will be talking about what they've seen from Koya Nakano today, as Bailey Rule is able to win a Sydney United corner. More fresh faces on the way for Bayswater City. Will they be stayed in their intervention until after this corner? I think so. Mason Tatafu and Deegan Brook, the two who are going to join us for the final 5 minutes of this one. But not before the game's only goal scorer, Carlos de Oliveira, can deliver this corner. In it comes from de Oliveira. It's spilled by Italiano, who is able to claim the second opportunity. No nonsense, straight up the line from the Basie keeper. Son out of play. Is there more late drama in the offing at King Tom? Will one of these players be able to produce a shock for Bayswater City? Jonathan Corness coming off. Mason Tatafu, signed from Hume City, the former Perth Glory defender.
Deegan Brook
joins alongside Deegan Brook, the 20-year-old striker who arrives from Redlands in the FQPL 1, the second tier of Queensland State football. Third top scorer in that competition with 17 goals. And Matt Sparrow has sung the praises of his attitude and work ethic since coming in to the squad in the last few weeks. I'm sure he would endear himself to the Frank Drago faithful should he open his account today. Tatafu. Son. A bit more zip now from Bayswater City. A bit of urgency in their play. McManus. Left-footed lifter, side-footed away by Nakano. Stevens. Mitchinson pushing forward, the ball in, once again repelled by Sydney United. Just maybe they'll get a few opportunities to charge on the break. De Oliveira lacking willing runners that time around, and eventually Rule canters forward to join the attack, but a heap in the way of rush. Perhaps Sydney United trusting themselves to keep another clean sheet this year. To mark their return to a national competition and a new chapter with victory. Bailey Rule left the ball behind. Takayuki Son, easy as you like, but his pass a poor one. It's comedy capers at that end of the King Tom field. Now Bayswater stream the other way. Sean McManus. Deegan Brook. To Takayuki Son, the new signings combining. Tatafu. Son again. Sydney United setting themselves to soak up late pressure. McManus clips it in. Janjetovic to the rescue once more. Has gobbled up just about every aerial ball that has been afforded to him today. Just in flight by Cementi. Sydney United can just about reach out and touch victory in their Australian Championship debut. % of Bayswater's last 6 goals in the league came in the final 10 minutes of games. Can they spring another late surprise?
4 minutes of additional time.
4 minutes of added time as announced by the booming PA system here at Sydney United. Time enough for a chance to kill it or a chance for Bayswater to equalise. It sits up nearly for Lagalia. Launched away by Sydney United, getting towards anywhere will do territory. They just want this win. As McManus slides it to Declan Hughes. An inventive ball. Mitchinson is there, pokes it into the middle, but there's no one waiting. And that is the exact spot Ollie Lagalia probably needed to be. Instead, he was trying to chase onto the Declan Hughes pass. Sydney United battening down the hatches. Janjetovic easily collecting once again and happy to take as much time out of it as he is afforded. Even if they are to go down to today Bayswater City, fancy they'll return back to the west of Australia with plenty of positives to take out of this performance. To come to the home of an Australian football giants, 3-time NSL Premier, and emerge with a respectable defeat. It'll be solid stuff in their national competition debut. It's not over yet though. Edwards, great turn from Lagalia initially. It's a half-field game at the moment. Hughes, hopeful. McManus forced to double back. And it is teeming down in Adenza Park right now as Ante Juric turns to the bench for the final time of this afternoon, and it's another returning Sydney United youngster for a senior debut in a Sydney United shirt, Michael Krislovic. The Krislovic name, a famous one
number 11,
at this club.
Being replaced by number 22, Michael Krislovic.
From the Bulls Academy, where he spent the last few seasons. Long throw from Bayswater, flicked on by McManus. No danger to the Sydney United defence. The sub, I'm pretty sure, was subbed. It's not the kind of long throw we're expecting later on in this game. The Sydney United supporters in no hurry to restore the ball. Now we've got a multi-ball situation as it's lofted in, and oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Bayswater City with another incredible late show. Jackson Stevens, the hero of an incredible Baysy bounce back on their national competition debut. A stunner at the Sydney United Sports Centre. We'll see Bayswater surely leave with a point to their name. A chaotic sequence, a hopeful stab.
Sydney United 1, Bayswater 1.
From Jackson Stevens, and his first goal since the 19th of July is surely going to hand Bayswater City the first ever point picked up by a WA side against New South Wales opposition in the NPL era. And you can just about hear the celebrations of Bayswater supporters all the way across the Nullarbor at Frank Drago Reserve. A moment of utter chaos in a game that has otherwise been trickling along at a leisurely pace explodes in the final moment. a regular scorer of goals, Jackson Stevens, just his second for the year. It could be a monumental one, a momentous one. Launched forward by Italiano. The spoils are shared in the final game of the Australian Championship weekend. Sydney United were on course for a triumphant return to national competition, but up steps Jackson Stevens with a freak of nature in the 94th minute to see Bayswater return home with a point. The full-time score from King Tom: Sydney United 1, Bayswater City 1.
Round 3, we are back here at home against the Metro Stars, and that's on the 25th, a Saturday, 25th of October, 3 p.m. kickoff. We do hope to see the home fans back here then. Bayswater, have a safe trip back to Perth, and we'll see you when we're away in Bayswater
here at the Sydney United Sports Centre. As we take a look back at the highlights, Bayswater City started brightly again and had a great chance to open the scoring through Ollie Lagalia. But the tightness of this encounter continued on throughout vast portions of the second 45. Lagalia, one of two great chances to open the scoring, wasn't able to. And Vedran Janjetovic with another gather. Sydney United. Carlos de Oliveira was shooting from just about anywhere in this game. And ultimately, his propensity to shoot would be rewarded from the penalty spot. Ayuk Mo going to ground, Jake Rose pointing to the spot, and Sydney United's player of the season smashing one home to open the scoring. And it was a goal that for vast portions looked as though it would seal a win on the opening day of Group D for the former NSL premiers, who could have added to their tally through their new signing, Farah Coco. Just didn't catch this one in the way that he would have hoped, even if he does have that ability in the locker. And then came a shock. With 2 balls on the field, Jackson Stevens bought a ticket and won the raffle. Vedran